this around your neck.
Bucket of Blood, 1959. Ironically, this isn't the only beatnik film I reviewed from 1959. I also reviewed another one called The Bloody Brood that also had blood in the title from 1959. And I went in depth on my thoughts on beatnik culture in that video, so I won't get too much into that here. But this was clearly a shot at beatniks. And it was kind of imitation as well as parody of beatniks. I will say this, being in New York, a New Yorker and someone who spends a lot of time in Manhattan and chic parts of Brooklyn, I guess maybe you could say, uh, the food thing is real. Especially being a vegan, you go into some of these restaurants and the the some of the menu items, the food items are just like so ridiculously over the top, like what they call them and what the ingredients are. It's just like, wow. I was like hearing them talk about the certain foods they're eating, and they were obviously doing it as a parody, as a joke to make fun of like beatniks and like all the crazy lengths they'd go to for all these exotic type foods. But that's a real thing in New York. So I will say they nailed that. Everything else was kind of far-fetched, which I would say most of this movie is really, really far-fetched, and you can't put any thought into it at all.
I guess my big question is, did you enjoy it?
Yes, I thought it was the fun. I thought it was uh, funny, genuinely, and funny also ironically, because there are just certain moments and the premise. It's just so stupid that it's funny. So it's like, the funny parts are hit and miss, kind of funny, but the stupid parts are just so stupid that they're even funnier than the intentional funny parts. So I definitely enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. And the very first sculpture that he made with that cat, the fact that he left a knife in it was absurd. But yes, it was. I enjoyed this one quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the beatniks falling for it kind of works because they establish the beatniks and they make you view them as like pseudo intellectuals, like you don't respect them at all. So the fact that they fall for it works because they did set it up well. But in any other situation, falling for like this stuff is like real art. It's just ridiculous. I will say this though, I was a little disappointed because I figured out like how the movie was going to play out right after he killed the cat, because they already established the beatniks, how stupid they are, the art aspect of it, and obviously with the title Bucket of Blood, there was going to be a lot of blood in there. So after he killed the cat, I'm like, okay, I saw the clay on the table, I know where this is going to go. I was just anticipating an end of how are they going to get him into a clay like
Mm-hmm.
a clay like statue or something, and have the beatniks think, oh man, this was his last piece of art. So the most disappointing thing was the lack of budget or effort they gave in the end, that he wasn't covered in clay, like something like that.
Yeah, I'd seen this movie one time before, probably in the early 90s. I hadn't seen it since. I'd remembered it, but I couldn't remember the ending. But yeah, I was fully anticipating that they even made it look like he was going to do something art-wise. So I just thought he was just going to cover him, just pour a bunch of, maybe perhaps kill himself and just cover himself with plaster real quick. So when they burst in there, they saw just, a plasterized Walter. But no, they that's not what happened.
Yeah, that would have been the only thing that would have really pushed it over the top. But aside from that, it was enjoyable. Obviously, nothing you're going to take seriously. Dick Miller, obviously he did like over 100 films. I was reading this was only one of 3 lead roles he actually got, and that he used that Walter Paisley name in like several
Mhm.
other films. I guess that was a running gag for him.
Yep.
The funny thing is, like for me, Dick Miller was always old, And even in this film, when he was only 31, he felt really old for the part.
Yep.
It's like this should have been like a young kid, like in his at worst mid-20s, you know. He felt a
Yeah.
little bit mature for it.
He looked obviously I'm used to a more older grizzled Dick Miller, and he looked like a younger version of an older grizzled Dick Miller, but he was still a little older and grizzled looking.
That's a good point. He looked like a younger version of still a very old man.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's all I really got for this. It's not something you're going to put too much thought into. Obviously, this was a American International's picture with Roger Corman, so you're going to get all the schlocky stuff where the title and the poster have more effort than the actual film itself, and you have the gimmicks as well, being in that late 50s 60s era of like gimmick stuff. I was reading one of the gimmicks was you bring your own bucket of blood, you get a free ticket. So all that's nonsense that goes on during that time frame. Any other thoughts? Anything you didn't get to? Any final thoughts on the film?
No, it was just a very quick film. My version ran 65 minutes, and again, I think it's been in the public domain forever. However, I do know that a nice new Blu-ray was put out by a company, and apparently the print is fantastic looking. I'd be interested to see what this looks like cleaned up. But no, I think this is a very enjoyable way to kill an hour.
Yeah, pun intended.
Yep.